Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Hump day and a little on the brisk side this morning. Nice and clear, however. I got about a waning gibbous moon above and the morning star.
Beautiful
nice.
morning, yes.
Yes,
Beautiful
sir.
Morning. Little chilly, but we should expect that this time of year.
Glad to have you aboard. Understand we got a school board meeting about to take place here, Miss Brittany.
Yes, we do. And I do know that there will be some interesting topics of discussion. We'll see how it goes since there was an audit report released yesterday, and it didn't get glowing reviews. So it'll be interesting. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, about just kind of what that report says and also what happens at the school board meeting today. So if you have an opportunity, go check out the school board. It's at 2:00 this afternoon. I think that they will have a lot of parents there this time because the redistricting just doesn't seem right, Bill. So I think that there are a lot of parents that are concerned about what school their kid is going to be redistricted into.
Well, they should be.
Yes. So we'll see what happens today. It'll be interesting.
This goes back to the good old days of unconstitutional busing, where the extreme court decided they looked at the Constitution and said, "Oh, here's busing right here in Article 7." There is. Bus your kid 20 miles across town when they could go to the school that was 2 blocks away.
Yep.
And then parents start complaining, or the teachers start complaining. Parents aren't showing up for PTA meetings. Well, do you think? You're working home, you come home, and then you're going to have to go drive 20 miles across town to go to a PTA meeting and stay there for an hour or two and then drive 20 miles back across town, even at the cost of gas those days. In fact, busing was so bad, Paul Harvey mentioned this, the late great Paul Harvey was talking about this, when they were doing the busing program and sending these kids all over Hell's Half Acre. They weren't learning anything, but he said they were using up the output of 63 oil wells a day with all the buses that they were driving. And there was a great story that even the communist broadcast system, CBS, did one night, where this kid had to go to was trying to get a summer job. He's from here in Georgia, trying to get a summer job, and he couldn't pass the test to get the job. And he says, "Well, of course I can't read or write. I've spent my whole life on a cotton picking bus." So the Department of Education is finally maybe doing some of its job, because yesterday we had the presidents of 3 of the Poison Ivy League schools testify before Congress about anti-Semitism on campus.
Yeah, a lot of them didn't have a lot to say about it. I hate the way they answer questions.
Oh, I do too. Did they have the same script writer? Because every one of them had they had to read it, and they were all saying the exact same thing. I didn't realize that the 3 schools they had up there, University of Pennsylvania, MIT, and Harvard, were all run by women.
Weird.
And
interesting how that works.
And the one at Harvard looked like with the big square glasses and the buzz cut. I said, "This is the president of Harvard." I mean, just the look itself. In fact, all of them, looked pretty frumpy. But nevertheless, that's neither here nor there. But they didn't put on a good appearance. But then again, they didn't put on a good appearance for Congress yesterday, as they were explaining this anti-Semitism on campus and what they were going to do or not do about it.
Dr. Kornbluth, yes. At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking, specifically calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
Yes
speech
or no?
becomes if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, targeted at an individual.
It's
Severe,
targeted at
pervasive.
Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric. When it
And is it
crosses into
anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Are these women's paychecks gift wrapped? Because I know what the University of Georgia president makes. I can't imagine what these women are making.
Yes, and I'm sorry, context? What context?
Yeah.
Explain to me what context would be.
Yeah. I'm going to murder you. And what context would that be? This is pathetic. These are in charge of supposedly the finest higher learning institutions on the planet.
Well, how much are these Jewish kids paying to be harassed like this?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that if this was any other minority group, if this was blacks, if this was Hispanics, if this was, the LGBTQ community.
The LGBTQ X04 symbol for boron, majesty, LSMFT, XOT.
They would be prosecuted.
Yeah.
To the highest extent, they would be banned from the school. They would be kicked off campus, never to be heard from or seen again.
Later in the hearings, they all started reading from the same sheet of music about. But what we're really worried about is Islamophobia. But that's been running rampant. Oh, have we seen riots and Muslim students threatened?
Not only that, they've been able to chant in the streets whatever they want.
Yeah.
They've been climbing on statues. They've been going in front of Jewish restaurants.
The peace-loving Muslims have come out now and said that they're going to be voting against Joe Biden. The Biden's over because we're not going to vote for him. I guess they're going to vote for Cornel West, that left-wing loon communist that teaches at Princeton.
Yeah, well, and Lizzie Warren's with us this morning, and she said, so can students call for the genocide of Muslims? That would not be allowed. And she also says, I stand with Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
They would call it a genocide of college presidents. Gee, many Christmas. This is disgusting.
And what they're doing is they are dehumanizing people, and they've been working on this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
If you are on the right in any stretch of anything, if you lean to the right, you spit in the wind towards the right.
Yeah.
They are coming for you, and they are making sure that they are dehumanizing you every step of the way. This is what they did. In Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and
the Führer would be pleased.
yes, we cannot allow this to happen with anyone. We should be continuing the pursuit of the human aspect of life, and I think we're seeing this with all the technology that we're using. We see that they're saying that children in Gen Z are more conservative than in previous generations, because they're not being promiscuous, they're not going out to bars, they're not doing any of this stuff. But I don't know if that actually relates to conservatism, because they're staying at home playing video games. They're not living in reality, Bill. They're on social media. They're on TikTok. So I don't know if that is relational or not. But I think that it's very easy to dehumanize people when you don't have relationships.
Mm-hmm.
There's no value there.
Yeah, this is pathetic so badly. How these women got these jobs, I have no idea. Because this was
they probably know someone.
This was just disgusting. And to think that these are the people who are in charge of educating our kids, this is one of the reasons we tell you, don't send your kids to college anymore.
Yeah, definitely don't.
And certainly don't send your university any money if you are an alumni donor. But this is going back to the Jewish students. They testified too.
Well, they were at a press conference, and this is what the one that attends Harvard, which is probably one of the most expensive schools in the country, and this is his experience.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Jonathan Frieden, and I'm currently a student at Harvard Law School. I would like to share with you what my experience has been like since October 7th at Harvard Law School, and after over 30 student clubs signed on to a statement explicitly blaming Israel for the murder and the rape of their own people. Multiple times a week, on my way to class, I walk by mobs of people chanting "From the river to the sea," which is a call for the destruction of the state of Israel. Most recently, "We have you outnumbered," and "Globalize the Intifada." An intifada is an uprising, and the last two were marked by blowing up buses and restaurants. One day a few weeks ago, I was in a study room in the law school while classes were going on, and a mob of 200 people, many of whom not only were not law students, were not Harvard affiliates, got into our building, marched down the halls chanting these phrases. Jews took off their kippot, and I watched someone hide under a desk. Many of my friends ran up to the Dean of Students and DEI office, but they had locked their doors for their own safety. This was such a clear safety concern. It was also explicitly against school policy as it disrupted class. We heard nothing from Harvard. No email, nothing. I talk to my Jewish friends on campus every day. They tell me how afraid they are to go to class. They share hate messages they are receiving from other students on social media, including comparing Jews to Nazis. And they ask us, and they ask me, for safety advice because of the lack of effective communication from the university. So you might ask, what's the administration doing? We've brought them policy violations, proof that they happened, and photos of the student handbook that were explicitly violated. When they respond, if at all, responses are empty and meaningless. Responses such as, "We are aware of the situation." This is not how the university would treat other groups. We are happy that Harvard has created an anti-Semitism advisory board, but there is no transparency about what they do. They seemingly don't have executive power. They are certainly not accessible to students. I've personally asked to meet with them multiple times for weeks, and they have not responded to me. And no one knows what happens when you send them an incident report. We are not asking to limit free speech. We are asking the university to enforce their policies, to ensure safety and a climate conducive to education. The administration has asked us to abide by the rules, and we have unequivocally. It seems more and more that this rule only applies to Jews, as broken rules are not being enforced or outwardly reprimanded. I want to be clear. This is not just about the Middle East. This is anti-Semitism, right here, in our homes, on our campuses. It is dangerous. It is going unchecked. And everyone that does not join to put a stop to it is part of the problem. I am asking, as I have been, do something. Protect Jewish people. Protect your students. Thank you.
Nonetheless, I refuse to go back to 1939 when Jews had to hide their religious symbols and hide who they are due to the intimidation and harassment of us. I used to think this was nonsense, fear-mongering, until I was made aware that Penn recommended to students, quote, not wear clothing/accessories related to Judaism.
Just looked up Harvard's tuition, $67,720 a year. $67,720 a year.
I think that all of these universities need to have a black pen taken to any sort of amount of money that the government's been giving them because they don't deserve it.
Exactly.
And the last person you heard was from the University of Pennsylvania, which previous to that, you heard that person unable to answer a question. And then everything, these university presidents are basically saying, well, it's out of context. I'm not sure what other context you can put this in.
Yeah.
I'm.
This sounds like Mayorkas.
Oh my gosh. These people are just a bunch of liars and frauds.
All these people coming across the border, what are you going to do about it? Senator, this is a broken system that has been broken for many years. Jeez.
He just repeats the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
These people are ridiculous. The thing is yesterday was the day of hearings. And I will tell you that women's sports, big topic up on the Hill yesterday. And of course, one of our favorites, Riley Gaines, was there. And these people are also insane. The people that are trying to take away women's rights.
Rewrite Title IX.
Yep.
We'll be talking about that and more. And Mike Lee has his day in court yesterday, and it was pretty good. We'll talk about that coming up next. Stay real. Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
What happened?
Well, when you opened up the Chewy box, you went a bit...
bonkers. That's one word for it.
I guess I blacked out. This is the best squeaky toy ever.
Probably shouldn't, but we did get you a few more gifts.
Honey...
Ooh, there's more.
Chewy's prices were so great.
You don't need to explain yourself, Linda. Keep on saving.
Pets aren't just pets. They're more.
Well, I hope I got a leaf blower this year.
You got a turtleneck.
Unwrap the excitement this holiday season with great deals from Chewy.
do them in that order, 1 and 6.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Wednesday.
Yes, and don't forget the school board meeting is today. It should be interesting. Should be interesting. And I believe that there is a city council meeting tomorrow at 2, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So, some sort of a special meeting on redistricting downtown, which is sounds
overlays, which should be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. They weren't very clear about exactly what it was for, so I'll be interested to see how that turns out.
And it's probably going to be one of those things, because I've gone to a couple of these. It's like, well, listen to what you have to say as long as it doesn't interfere with what we've already decided to do.
Yeah, these people don't represent the people. I'm really disappointed in the reelection of most of these people. Definitely, they've done...
You had your chance.
Yep.
You had some good people running.
Yep. Well, and not enough good people, though, I will say. We need more people jumping in. We know that politics is ugly. We know that no one wants to do the job. However, people need to step up. Good people need to step up and be concerned about what's the integrity of keeping the integrity of the city and keeping the integrity and doing the will of the people, I think is the big thing. So.
Yeah, and doing what they want. And you don't want somebody really who does want the job. You want
Correct.
somebody in there who really doesn't want the job. Oh, I just looked up the salary for the president of Harvard. $1 million.
Wow.
That's just basic. Usually they get, in addition to that, they get transportation, they get, this paid for, that paid for, gas credit, the whole bit. Or electric charging credit.
Yeah. Lots of credit they get.
Yeah, sure.
And Lizzie Warren says 94% of incumbents win in Georgia. That is absolutely ridiculous. 94% of them are not doing a good job. I will tell you that much.
That's right.
But people don't pay attention, and they just look for the name that they know, and they vote, which is a little scary, though.
Well, once again, our FBI director was up in front of Congress yesterday.
Yeah, and giving terrible answers as usual. But I will say, Mike Lee, he's from Utah. Of course, that's a little close to my heart. And Mike Lee is one of the better senators, I would say. He is very aggressive. Still a little mad about him voting against the Section 230, getting rid of that. But other than that, he's been a very good senator.
Tell people what Section 230 is.
Section 230 is taking away the special privileges we've given these big tech companies where they do not have to be liable for things that they do. As far as taking things off the platform, and you're unable to sue them for things like that. So they are protected in a very special way where, newspapers and things are not. So. And
hopefully when Donald Trump gets reelected for the third time, we'll get Mike Lee on the Supreme Court.
We shall see. There may be an opportunity there. So
he is very, very good, very sharp. And here was what he had to say as Christopher Wray, that wonderful director of the Federal Bureau of Intimidation, was on the trial.
Don't worry about it. We've got this taken care of. We've got new procedures. It's going to be different now. It's never different. You haven't changed. And you keep referring to these policies, these new procedures. We haven't seen that. We're not even allowed to have access to it. And we have absolutely no reason to trust you because you haven't behaved in a manner that's trustworthy. You can't even, as we sit here, tell me that people who intentionally, knowingly, deliberately violated the civil rights of American citizens, that they were fired or that they had their security clearance stripped. Now, in 2022, FBI and other agencies searched Americans' communications over 200,000 times, only 16 of which were evidence of a crime-only searches that returned information. I'd like to ask you to give a yes or a no answer to these questions. Were the 3 related batch queries consisting of over 23,000 separate queries relating to the events of January 6th, were those evidence of a crime-only queries, yes or no?
I don't know the answer to that.
The answer is no. I do know the answer. The answer is no. Were there 141 queries for the activists arrested in connection with the George Floyd protests here in Washington, D.C., evidence of a crime-only queries?
Those were non-compliant queries, and again, they all predate the reforms that we've put in place, which
echo other reforms that other FBI directors have told me about every darn year.
If I may.
How about the 19,000 donors to a political campaign? The answer there is no. What about the query for a sitting member of Congress? The answer there is no. What about the query involving a U.S. senator, which for all we know could be any one of us? The answer is no. And so what does that tell me? Well, what I'm hearing and what these data points all point to is that a warrant requirement or prohibition relating to quote-unquote evidence of a crime only queries would not have been something that would have prevented any of the most egregious examples of the abuse that we've seen under Section 702. So the FBI is already required to obtain a court order in some circumstances before accessing the contents of Americans' communications in the context of 702. They're already required for that in some circumstances. Since 2018, how many times has that requirement been triggered, according to government reporting? Do you know?
You're talking about the so-called F2?
Yes.
Yeah. How many times has it been triggered?
Yes.
I think there have been 2 instances where I think is maybe the number.
103 times it's been triggered. And out of those 103 identified times, the FBI should have obtained a court order. How many times did the FBI actually obtain one? Do you know?
That, I think the answer is none.
0. So you're telling me that the FBI has completely ignored the limited court order requirement that it's already subjected to. You have the audacity to come here, and you told us that adding a warrant requirement to 702, even for queries involving U.S. persons on U.S. soil, that would amount to some sort of unilateral disarmament. You have a lot of gall, sir. This is disgraceful. The Fourth Amendment requires more than that, and you know it. I know every single time for centuries, even prior to the founding of this country, there were similar protections built into the laws of the United Kingdom before we became a country. Even then, the government was making the same darn argument you're making today, which is it's too hard. This would make it hard for the government. It's why we have a Constitution, sir, and you must comply with it.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond briefly? When you ask why are things different this time, I would point you again to the findings of the court and the department themselves, both of which have not been shy about identifying some of the same instances that you cited in our colloquy. They themselves have observed the effectiveness of the reforms, which is why the pre versus post date of the reforms becomes very significant. So that's number one. Second, as to your claims about constitutionality, I would point you back to what the case law actually shows on this subject, which is that no court has found 702 in its current form to be unconstitutional, and every court to have looked at it has found it to be constitutional.
Well,
and last point.
How lucky for you, because no one has standing to do that. No one knows when they're being surveilled. That is not an argument, sir.
Last point, Mr. Chairman, is that in some of the instances, and you went through a number in your questions, in some of the instances in particular that I know about, those are instances where the queries were run in order to get to a public official, member of Congress, to warn them about foreign influences targeting them, and a warrant would not have enabled that.
We call those consent searches, and consent searches do not require a warrant, sir, and you know that. There is nothing that you have done that is not entirely within the FBI's control and supervision. You're asking me to believe something that is not believable because your agency has made it unbelievable, and I refuse to accept it.
This is a guy that takes a private jet for a 15-minute flight.
Well, here's the thing, Bill. I love that we have these hearings. I love that we get these sound bites. Mm-hmm. However, I don't love that there has been no action taken against the FBI. There have been no actions taken against Christopher Wray. What are the consequences for these people doing this nefarious stuff? Nothing. I have not seen any. They get embarrassed on television for the 1% of people that watch C-SPAN, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, honestly.
I'm not sure it's 1%.
Well,
yeah.
I'm giving it to us, 1%.
Okay.
1%.
Sounds good.
Yes.
By the way, go ahead.
But I worry about us continuing to do this as Republicans. Yes, we're having hearings. I'm grateful for that. However, I do not see them actually taking any action. I do not see them defunding parts of the FBI. I do not see them funding his salary, which I'm sure should be done. And, along with these people that were giving all of this money to Harvard, MIT, University of UPenn. And I don't understand why we're not taking action. We're having hearings. Again, I appreciate it. I like the sound bites, but I want to see these people accountable.
Yeah, and by the way, just real quickly before we go to break, I did look up the salaries. We mentioned that the president of Harvard makes $1 million a year. The president of MIT, not quite as much, only $917,855 a year. I don't know how you can survive on that, but you know, even with today's prices. But this is the one that I almost fell off the chair on. The University of Pennsylvania's president makes $2.9 million a year. 2.9, that's about $3 million a year. And you just heard how well she's doing her job.
I went into the wrong living for sure. I should have been shooting to be a president of a university.
It's like a buddy of mine at WTOC, you know, the big red digital high definition, soon to be 3D11.
Yes.
When he first went into the business, he was an announcer, and he said, then he saw the paychecks that sales was making. He said, oh, I'm on the wrong end of this business.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So he went into sales.
Yes, and Steve Stanton Sr. says Section 230 is our ace in the hole with big tech that we refuse to use to our advantage. And I'm thinking what you're talking about is it's a leverage point for us, basically threatening them we're going to take it. However, they don't seem to be too nervous because I do think that they're in bed, not only with Democrats, but with Republicans too. I don't think we're exempt from that. And
look at the checks that they write to their campaigns and you'll see just exactly how they vote.
It's interesting when you start looking at who donates to whose campaign and the way that they vote and how it's influenced by maybe the checks they're receiving. Lizzie Warren, Republicans conflate bluster with action. You are exactly right, Lizzie. And Steve Stanton Sr. says salaries is just where the benefits begin.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not wrong, Steve.
Yeah.
You are not wrong.
Coming up next.
Well, the hearings were not over for yesterday. Title IX was up for discussion again. They keep having these hearings, which I appreciate. However, I don't see a lot of action being taken. And I do feel like there's probably a lot of people in the House that feel like their hands are tied and there's not a lot that they can do. But I'm hoping that we will see some budgetary constraints when it comes to these things.
Exactly. That's coming up. Stay real.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934 with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And this being the Christmas season, by the way, speaking of those president's salaries, I hope they're gift wrapping their paychecks.
I wish they would start donating it to people that they should donate to the homeless problem. Yeah. I'm sure that they're on board with that. So, and Vicki Bradley's with us this morning, and she says we need to elect officials who take action. These officials are all talk, no action. I think that's also what happens when you're in a seat for too long. I do think that the fight in you is just it starts to dwindle, Bill.
Yeah. Don't confuse activity with results.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the reason that Republican voters are so irritated, I would say, with the GOP and with RNC and Ronna and our officials is because when the Republicans are in charge, we get nothing. Mm-hmm. We get strongly worded letters, Bill.
Yeah.
When the Democrats are in charge, we get all of this stuff rammed down our throat. And they win.
Yeah.
They get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's where a lot of the frustration comes in on the Republican side, just based off of my conversations with people. And, there's a lot of pent-up anger about what's going on in the country. So I think that has a huge relationship.
Yeah. Start doing your job.
Yes.
Okay? Let's see some results.
Yeah.
When are we going to replace the FBI director? We got, I know, a retired agent here who would probably take the job, at least on a temporary basis, to try to get things straightened out.
And he's a young guy.
Mhm.
He's young, and I think that here's the other thing, Bill. One of the things, and this is not meant to be offensive, but one of the things that has not happened is that the torch has not been turned over to younger generations. We still have people that are in their 80s representing us in Congress. They are too disconnected from the 20, 40, and even, the 60-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's just, when the median age in this country is, I think it's like 42 or something, that's a huge gap, and they don't understand technology. They don't understand a lot of the things that are happening or the possibility, and they are not looking at the future, Bill. And I don't think that they can comprehend what the future looks like because they're just too disconnected from technology.
But I think the other side could also point out, okay, we've got AOC and and the squad there, they're all under 40 for the most part. And so this is what we get. It depends. It also depends on their political philosophy. But what gets me, Brittany, is when these people get elected, suddenly, how did they become experts on everything?
Mm-hmm.
They called doctors up and said, you remember when the Dalai Lama said, doctor will amputate your leg rather than give you a medicine to heal it because he'll make more money at it. Doctors don't do that.
Good doctors don't.
Good doctors don't, yeah. We have some, that do sex change operations. But those are the people who ought to lose their medical license.
I don't disagree with you. And, Lizzie Warren says the 80-year-olds are tired. And that's the thing. That's why we need to rotate our representatives because you cannot continue to fight and take the arrows for 15, 20 years. I'm sorry. It's just not. You basically just start giving in because it's easier. So I don't blame the elected officials. I do blame the people who refuse to get involved and refuse to see that we need change. So,
you want term limits? Go to the polls. Vote for the guy you want or gal you want. Okay, but you got to vote.
Yep, you certainly do.
Whether you think it's rigged or not, there can be overwhelming numbers that cannot be denied.
And that's where we're at, Bill. We need to remember that we are focused on election integrity. However, we still need people to show up in numbers, regardless of what happens with the voting machines. That case will be heard on January 9th in the state of Georgia against the machines. So I'm excited for that trial to continue and to see what the outcome of that will be. But I do think that we need people to vote. But I don't want you here's the other thing, Bill. Care about what you're voting about.
Exactly.
Do your research on the candidates, figure those things out. So the other thing is we need to look at what's going on at the Capitol Hill. A lot of people not watching C-SPAN, but definitely yesterday they were talking about Title IX, and this woman she works for the National Women's Law Center.
Whatever that is. She's
the president, and her name is Fatima Goss Graves. The funny thing is who she's married to, which is Matthew Graves. He's a prosecutor who has been putting away January 6th prisoners. It's amazing how connected these people are. It's absolutely insane to me, Bill.
Yeah. It's like all the media connections. Yeah. All the people that you see, anchors and news directors and reporters were once working for the DNC.
Yep. And this is no different. But she was for putting trans in sports.
And success in school sports depends on a whole range of factors, including how hard you work and coaching and access to really good resources and facilities. And trans students participate in sports for the same reason as their kids, because it is fun, because it creates belonging and community, because it teaches so much about persistence and leadership and discipline, unless they learn to lose gracefully, hopefully. And often they learn to win with dignity, hopefully. They learn to do the sort of work that means you have higher grades and stay connected to school. I want every kid to have that chance, to have the chance to play. So I feel compelled to just end my testimony with a few ideas for the committee to pursue if it really wants to work on this issue. We could make it safer for student athletes who report harassment and sexual misconduct.
She's something else. we don't have the clip, but Riley Gaines called another woman who is a congresswoman. The congresswoman had called Riley Gaines a transphobic person.
Right.
So Riley Gaines said, well, if I'm transphobic, then you're a misogynist. And then she moved to have that stricken from the record.
Oh, no.
Yes. But turns out she ended up withdrawing after there was some discussion. So good for Riley Gaines for sticking up for herself. She's become quite the advocate in this arena. And I think that I think she will make a difference in what's happening.
Yeah, by all means. And why can't they keep talking about this? Well, everybody wants to participate, and every time we suggest, well, let the trans people have their own league. You can make their own division. This is the trans division, and let them compete against each other. And that always seems to fall by the wayside, or deaf ears, or water off the duck's back, or whatever you want to call it.
You want to know why? Because it doesn't destroy women.
Yeah.
Women have been under attack in this country for a very long time. They make everything that a woman is meant to be. They demonize it. We do not uphold the sacred role that women have as mothers. I think we look down upon them if they are not going to be CEOs or presidents of nonprofits. And just for the record, that woman that you just saw, her net worth is $1.5 million for being, a president of a bullcrap nonprofit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
because it's a bullcrap nonprofit, and that's the
probably
nicest thing we can say about it.
Yeah.
What bothers me as much as anything else is that they keep trying to destroy women's sports and women in general. These girls who are being denied not only their trophies, and hallelujah, Brittany, they said that Riley Gaines was going to get her trophy. Just recently, there was something I remember something that came on last week that Gaines was the NCAA has said that she's going to get her trophy.
Okay, Bill, that's nice and all, but this is ridiculous that this is the fight that she's had to have for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also the experience
death threats that she's been under,
and the experience that she has as a swimmer, as well as the other people on that team that had to be in a room. A locker room undressing with a male who still had all of his parts. Mm-hmm. That's not okay. That's very uncomfortable for women. Women deserve the right to their own privacy. What they did to those girls is not okay. And that's an experience they're not ever going to forget. I mean, and it took away so much of what they worked so hard for. And I'm sure that Riley Gaines is grateful that she's getting a trophy, but I'm sure she's it kind of doesn't have the same meaning as it did.
No.
And Chrissy Maud's with us this morning, and she says, no, they participate in women's sports because they are cheaters.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Lizzie Warren says, every child play. Okay, let's stop tryouts and require equal playing time for all students.
Right.
I'm sure everyone in the football world down here, especially in the South, would love that. In college football. Everyone gets to play.
Yeah.
And then Steve Stanton Sr. says, go Riley, we support you. And the other thing, Bill, is you look at the fact that they don't even have to fully transition in order to play on a women's team.
Mm-hmm.
So there really is not the same amount of sacrifice that you would think there would be if you're going to play in women's sports. So Lady Ballers came out over the weekend. It's made a huge splash. It's gotten a lot of good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. The viewers seem to like it. I have not had the opportunity to watch it yet, but I heard that it's pretty funny. But these guys basically just decide to come back and decide to be women. They were like, we don't have to change anything, and they're like, no, you're gender fluid and you identify as a woman. So they're excited, and just a really good comedy, poking fun at what they're doing to women's sports. And I think that that's the best way to deal with it, is with comedy. And also Hollywood is probably not loving how well this movie's doing.
Yeah. Humor is the best way to do it. But where's the National Organization of Whack Jobs, women? Where's Code Stink? All these women advocate groups, and they're saying, well, the other women, and what you just heard from the testimony from that witch was, the women need to learn to lose with dignity. Okay? So the guys can win with dignity and be proud of themselves. The women need to learn to suck it up.
Well, why even separate sports now?
Yeah.
Let everyone play. Mm-hmm. And guess what? You have to have, a mandatory, you have to have half the team be women. How do you think that's going to go over, Bill? Do you think men are going to be super excited about that?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think it will destroy sports?
Mm-hmm.
It will. I mean, that's what they're doing to women. But
they're trying to destroy football.
Yeah, well.
Every time we turn around, I heard an interview just the other day from the guy who was. They were doing a thing on how popular soccer is getting with the kids.
No, you don't like that.
Yeah, and I'd rather watch paint dry, but nevertheless, they say, well, but because when the kids play football, they have these mental problems because their brain gets rattled.
And Lizzie Warren says
boxing doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, and Lizzie Warren says merge NBA and WNBA. That's the other thing, Bill. When you bring up boxing, you look at the UFC, and they allowed someone that was a male, biological male, to compete against a woman. That woman's face was,
she had to have
reconstructive surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, it is not an equal playing field, and you're doing so much damage to women that have worked their entire lives to be in these sports against women. They have not prepared their whole lives to work against men because we are not the same. Physiologically, we are not the same. I hate to break it to everyone, but that's a reality, and we all need to live there.
Yeah, take it up with God if you get to see him.
Yeah,
I'm doubting that you will, but but I'm not the one that makes that decision. But just take it up with him.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, Bill. The other thing that was not talked about yesterday on the Hill that I wish they would get to, but we have, I think it was 8 Republicans that have no backbone that decided that we were not going to impeach Mayorkas. For what reason? I have still heard no good one. Have you?
No, not a bit.
Lukeville, Arizona is under attack. There's video here showing that they were basically just cutting a hole in the wall, and the next video is them coming through it.
Yeah.
They're also damaging federal property, correct?
Correct. But that doesn't make it.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at this cartel guy.
He just shrugs his shoulders. Who cares?
Yeah, you're not going to do anything about it.
They don't care.
And this is a wall you paid for.
Yeah, can you see that hole right there? They don't care. It's and it's all across the border that we're seeing this, Bill.
When are we going to get this straightened out? As soon as we got a year left, okay?
Can we survive a year when they had 10,000 people come over in one day, Bill? 10,000 people in one day. And that's the people they counted. You see that they're just putting holes in the wall and sending them on through. And the guy just shrugs his shoulders like, what are you going to do about it? We run this place.
Yeah. Wish somebody had shot him, but that's just me.
And Bill, I just don't. When are people going to wake up to the fact that this is going to destroy our country? It's a reality.
Got a lot of well-dressed Chinese guys coming in.
And Syrians. I don't.
There was testimony, I think, or we heard one of the doctors say that that lab that they found that was run by the Chinese,
in California?
And we didn't know, that all the diseases that they had in there, from Ebola to COVID to other deadly diseases, he said it was his full. He said he believes it was his full intention to actually start distributing this around the country.
Well, it's no surprise, and these people coming into the country, I'm a little weary of vaccinations, Bill, these days. It could be because of the stuff that they did in 2020, and 2021. But
yeah, I used to get a flu shot every year. I'm not getting it anymore.
Yeah, it's amazing how your mind changes pretty quickly when they show you who they are. But at the same time, when people haven't had shots for some of these more serious diseases that we have gotten rid of, like measles, the MMR shots, and these people are going to bring this stuff, typhoid, that kind of stuff, back into the country because they're not vaccinated. They do not have the same health standards that we do here in the U.S. However, again, I'm a little bit reluctant to be okay with the way that the health standards are in this country.
In fact, as I recall, Brittany, there was a big outbreak of typhoid that the media was not talking about, keeping very sub rosa.
No.
Yeah, I know.
I
know.
I don't believe it. They would never do that.
And they couldn't. That there was no explanation for it. Said we just can't figure this out. I said I can. How about those people that you brought in from everywhere, USA, everywhere in the world? They interviewed some guys yesterday. Said one of the guys said, where are you from? He said, Morocco. Morocco?
What are you doing here?
There are 2 oceans between us and Morocco. How did you get here?
Well, they're just flying in, Bill.
Yeah.
Now they're just using airplanes for everything. We hear Ben Berkwam talk about that all the time. If you are at the airport, you can see the people that are being shipped all over the country. They have manila envelopes in their hand. We are printing their IDs. So as an American citizen, you can't fly wherever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, be patted down. You need all of this security, TSA, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're traveling and you're illegal, we'll print you an ID. We won't vet you, and have a nice day. Enjoy the country that we're going to give you money to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, you destroy it.
Yeah, and Mary McCann Hyber says 24,000 Chinese nationals have entered illegally in 2023. That's a scary number.
Yeah, it sure is.
And Lizzie Warren says, bet some evil Russians are crossing the border too. And 21,000 of the 24,000 are single adults that are crossing the border that are Chinese. And then Lizzie Warren says, are the children of illegals required to prove vaccination status to enter our schools like our children are?
Nope.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Nope.
And they are overrunning our schools. They're demanding that they have translators. We can't even educate our own students in English, let alone provide translators for people that are in this country illegally. While I do have compassion for people, you still broke the law.
You learn the language. None of this translator stuff. It takes about 3 weeks to learn the language, at least to be coherent enough to get by. And you'll get better as you go along, okay?
Well, and Bill, but why are we responsible for you coming into this country and having an expectation that we cater to you? I'm sorry, that's not the way this works.
Apparently it is now.
Because people are weak. That's why.
When they started turning down the food we were giving them because that's not what they wanted, well, tough toenails.
They need hot food. They can't have cold sandwiches. They're not peasants, Bill.
Oh, yeah. Well, sorry about that. Well, heat up the sandwich. There's a microwave oven. Go over there and heat it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Lizzie Warren says children learn a new language fast.
Yep.
And Steve Stanton Sr. says Convention of States may be the only chance outside of God. And the Convention of States makes me a little bit nervous because if there isn't a narrow enough focus in the Convention of States, it opens up a lot of...
Mark Levin explains that very well in his book about all the proceeds that are in place and the things that are in place to make sure that it doesn't go off the rails somewhere. Yeah.
Well, but if you have someone that has ill intentions when they do call this, and the way that it is called and written, it could, if they leave it too open, it could lead to chaos, I think. So
yeah, it's not that way. Read Mark Levin's explanation. And it lays it out perfectly that it all goes constitutionally and stays within the laws of the country.
Okay, Bill, I think you're an idealist because you see them breaking the Constitution right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. You have to have people that believe in the Constitution that are actually calling this. And at this time, I don't know how many governors actually believe in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, wasn't it you that said... was it New Jersey or something? They asked the governor.
Yeah.
Did you?
Phil Murphy.
Yeah.
When Tucker Carlson asked him when the COVID thing first broke out and he was closing all these businesses, including gyms and things of that nature, he said, "Where in the Constitution did it give you permission to do this?" And he just chuckled and said, "Well, we didn't even think about the Constitution when we were doing this."
So that's what scares me, Bill.
Yeah.
That's my fear when we're doing a Convention of States.
Levin, I will have to go back and reread it, but again, there are safeguards in place.
And Steve Stanton Sr. says what we're doing now is the definition of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely right. And
I'm doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Well, and the fact that people are still going to vote for Biden, I don't even know what to say, Bill.
Well, yeah, but there were people who would vote for anything. You could put you could put a dead guy up. In fact, the Democrats have reelected several dead guys.
That is true.
You know, it doesn't matter to them. Facts do not matter to the left. Okay, these aren't liberals. They are the left.
And they're people that hate this country.
Radicals.
Yeah.
They hate the country, and no amount of facts are ever going to get them to change. I remember, and this is maybe a weak analogy, but in my misspent youth, I was a basketball official, and I was working when we went to tournaments. We weren't paired with the guys that we usually work with. They might have been from upstate, so we're with another official that's not, that we don't know. We just meet each other in the locker room, say
to try
hello.
to keep it fair.
Yeah. And so and I at halftime I mentioned to this guy, you did this, and you're not supposed to do that. That's not in the rules. And he said, well, that's the way I've always done it, and that's the way I'm going to continue to do it. Oh, okay. So you have that attitude. Okay, I've always voted for Democrats, so I'm always going to vote for Democrats. Don't confuse me with facts. Don't confuse me with the truth. I'm always going to vote for these cretins.
Yeah, well, I think that the stuff in Chicago is actually really encouraging, Bill, because I do think that they are seeing that their community is being left behind, and they are no longer
making the correlation.
I believe that they are. I mean, they basically said, we played it a few days ago, that if you support open borders, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, we will not vote for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is going to turn the tide a lot on some of these Democrats, because the people that vote for them are the ones being harmed the worst. And I think that they are putting that together, especially when they're building them, special encampments and things so that they can stay in the city of Chicago.
And when all of a sudden their kids are told, well, you can't play soccer, you can't play lacrosse, you can't play football because the illegal aliens are going to need that space where you're playing.
Yeah, I think that reality kind of sucks, Bill.
Yeah, it sure does.
So I think that it does change the minds when you are impacted directly by things. When things are good, Bill, and you feel like you are getting the benefit of the government, you don't feel this way. But when it starts to impact your life, when someone else is getting what you think you deserve, it changes things.
Yeah, it does. So welcome to Realville. And as the late, great Rush Limbaugh used to say, I'm the mayor of Realville. And this is how it is. You can't come up with these utopian ideas, like with Obamacare and everything else. Sean Hannity, speaking of which, if people don't change their minds, he's had this consortium of doctors. I think it's in Iowa or Kansas or something like that. They got together, and you paid $50 a month for the family to be in their medical practice. Mm-hmm. And you got your visits, as many visits as you wanted to, X-rays and everything else. And they got together with the pharmaceutical companies, and they negotiated deals where you could get pharmaceuticals that might have cost you $80 to $300 down to like $10 or $15.
We actually have those here.
Yeah, and they testify before Congress. This is how you do it, and they haven't done it.
Nope. Well,
we
because
still
they
have
make
Obamacare, and when the Republicans had all three branches of government and were in charge, and it was put before them, they refused to vote on it.
So, Bill, I think that goes along with my prior statement that when Republicans are in charge, we get nothing of what we vote them in for. But when Democrats are in charge, they get everything that their constituents want.
Because they said they might be criticized in the press or whatever, or criticized by the Democrats. Well, so what?
The thing is like, that is the main thing. People are so worried about getting in the press and having to deal with it. And I'm like, that's reality. You ask the people for this job. Yeah. Do the job.
Absolutely. So, we just this disappearing act. I like that.
Yeah.
And meanwhile,
really quick, let's finish out some comments. Lizzie Warren says the Chicago mayor will throw them a bone before the election and buy their vote somehow. We'll see. I don't know how much damage is being done there, so we'll see. And Steve Stanton Sr. says Chi-Town is going to show out at the 2023 convention like they did in 1968.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm actually excited to see how their convention goes in Chicago. I think that will be a big indicator of...
Go back and look at that on YouTube or something and see how 68 went if you don't remember it. And as we close it up today, I want to give you an idea of, we put up our Christmas tree yesterday, and our young kitten, Boone, had his first experience as on the Christmas tree. We were worried about when we put it up. We said, I wonder what because he chases all the dogs. He has no fear whatsoever. And yesterday was his first experience on a Christmas tree.
You in the tree?
Yes.
Stop.
I think putting those bells on was gonna be a good idea.
He loves it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's so cute.
Just having a
Tree?
Yes.
Stop.
I think putting those bells on was gonna lights.
Oh, yeah.
And said, he so
So cute.
way to go. This was our rescue from up around Boone, North Carolina, on one of those overpasses or exit from one of the interstates. So we named him Boone, and he has shown no fear whatsoever about anything.
He's so cute. I love having him. He's come in the studio a few times, and he's cute. Lizzie Warren says cat people are the best, and she's like, dog people are okay too. Yeah, watch it. Yeah. Vandy's in the studio. He can hear you. Mm-hmm. And Steve Stanton said, what a cool cat. And Mary McCann Hybrider said, that's hilarious. I love all of the videos of people like putting up their trees and their animals having their first experience. A lot of them like to do a lot of damage to the trees. I've seen cats where they actually pull over the tree. They start pulling on everything, and the tree just falls over. Yeah, so I'm glad yours was sturdy.
Yeah, we've told our daughter to anchor the tree to the wall here, and we had to do that on several occasions. So that's going to about wrap it up for us.
Yes, Mary McCann says my cat would just lay under this tree and stare at the lights. He never climbed the tree. Mm-hmm. That's funny. I love the animals. They're the best. Well, we hope that you guys have a good day. Remember that
you can help us.
Yes, and for us to be here in 2024, we
need a Christmas present from you.
Yes, and that would be at thelocalspin.com. You can become a member, you can donate, and you can also advertise with us.
Oh, and by the way, all the advertisers that we've had, all of our sponsors, none of them have gone out of business.
Oh, imagine that.
Just a coincidence maybe, but why take a chance?
They should take a chance on us, Bill. And remember, 2024 is going to be a wild year. You don't want to do it without Bill and I, so make sure that you go to thelocalspin.com. Mm-hmm. And we will see you guys tomorrow.
All right.